This is not someone who's in touch with the struggle of average Canadians, but neither is the Prime Minister. Did he push aside his now phantom female cabinet minister because carbon tax-loving Mark Carney could get him into fancier parties than she can?
The House was back to question period today, where Trudeau was stung, Freeland was embarrassed, and the new Member of Parliament for Toronto St. Paul's, Don Stewart, was welcomed with a roar of applause from the Conservatives as they let the Liberals know loud and clear that the blue wave has started.
Let's take a look.
Colleagues, I know you're looking forward to this. The honor to inform the House that the Clerk of the House has received from the Chief Electoral Officer a certificate of election and return of Mr. Stewart, member for the Electoral District of Toronto St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, it is an honor to present to you Don Stewart, the member for the Electoral District of Toronto St. Paul's. He has taken the oath, signed the roll, and now claims the right to take his seat.
Let the honourable member take his seat.
So that's Don Stewart entering the House of Commons for the first time, and I bet there is nobody in the country that is more surprised than he is.
Well, it was incredible because we were in question period when they brought Don Stewart in, and like the video we just showed does not do it justice. The Conservatives were so ecstatic. They were shouting, they were clapping. Like the energy in that room was just incredible, and the video really doesn't do it justice.
They were loud.
It was awesome.
And of course Fergus muted the audio, because of course he did.
I mean, I suppose it could have been the guys in the control room, but it was something to behold. It was loud. Everybody was clapping. Everybody was happy. It was awesome. Our little boy actually started clapping.
Well, one correction. Everybody but the Liberals were happy. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, let's get to question period.
Questions orales. Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes up, costs up, crimes up, time's up. And now he wants a 300% carbon tax hike, all the way up to 61 cents a litre. Why not let Canadians choose a common-sense Conservative government that will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime now?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
the opposition has spent any time listening to Canadians over the summer, he would have heard that they need solutions. They need answers to the challenges they're facing. That's not what he's offering. Indeed, he doesn't care about Canadians. He just cares about himself and his own political interests. We're going to keep focused on doing the things that he refuses to do, whether it's him voting against dental care, whether it's against him voting against child care, whether it's him voting against a national school food program. We're going to still deliver the things that matter to Canadians, like food in kids' bellies, child care spaces, and supports for seniors to go to the dentist, many of them first time in years.
Oh my goodness, Trudeau is so dumb. What he just said was, we're going to do the things that the Conservatives refuse to do, like voting against dental care, voting against child care. So he's basically saying they're going to start voting against all of these policies.
Yeah, I think he was rattled. You know, it was very interesting because we were heading up to the gallery today, and we were with a friend of ours who previously worked at Parliament, and we were all just kind of standing there talking to the parliamentary officers about our son's special needs, and they were going to try to find a suitable seat for him. And Trudeau just walks by, and he was close enough that if I had told him, like, you need to call an election, he would have heard it. You know what I mean? Like, it was bizarre seeing this man up close like that.
You could smell the fear on him.
Yeah.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Children are hungrier than ever after 9 years of the NDP Liberals. In fact, 25% of them are not getting enough food, and we now know why. A carbon tax fraud has been perpetrated by this NDP Liberal Prime Minister, who kept secret Environment Canada documents that showed that the carbon tax was blowing a $25 billion hole in our economy. Our economy per capita is smaller today than it was 10 years ago, during which time the American economy has grown by 19%. Instead of a reckless plan to hike the tax to 61 cents a litre, why not allow Canadians to vote to axe the tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Here's a news flash for the Conservative leader. Climate change costs money, and what would cost the most money to Canadians at all is his do-nothing climate plan. News flash: when the Toronto subway gets flooded, it costs money. News flash: when forest fires hit communities across this country, it costs Canadians money to rebuild. When you have droughts that hit farmers and agriculturists across this country, it costs money. What doesn't cost money is putting money in 8 out of 10 of the money of Canadians' pockets with the Canada Carbon Rebate to support their families and fight climate change.
Newsflash. If it costs money and the carbon tax is supposed to be revenue neutral, what is your argument? You have none. Like, you can't have it both ways, Trudeau. You can't say we're fighting climate change with the money from the carbon tax, but also saying that the carbon tax is revenue neutral. Sorry, you can't have it both ways. And it was great because one of the Conservative MPs yelled out as he was saying this. He's like, how many forest fires have you stopped?
You know, and that's the great thing about actually being there in person is you hear all the heckling. You can't even really hear what the speaker is saying.
No, you can't.
Like, not the speakers in Fergus, but whoever's standing up to speak, like Trudeau or Pierre. You can barely hear them at all unless you're using your earpiece, but you can hear the heckling. And let me tell you, one person who is an excellent heckler is John Barlow. He's great.
He's phenomenal.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just proved my point. His tax doesn't stop floods, fires, or droughts. All it does is create more poverty. This also from a high-flying, high-taxing, high-carbon hypocrite who flew 92,000 kilometers in a fuel-guzzling, tax-funded private jet while he taxes single moms and seniors for heating their homes. Now, carbon tax Carney wants him to put the tax back on home heating oil. Will he reject carbon tax Carney and instead allow Canadians to choose to axe the tax?
Just want to remind all members, and to do so early, to be very mindful of their language that they use in referring to other members in this House.
Apparently we're not allowed to refer to carbon tax Carney as carbon tax Carney, but carbon tax Carney isn't a member of the House, so why don't you sit down, Greg? Just saying. I know he, you know, you're assuming that he's sitting in Freeland's chair.
But
and although they look alike, he's not sitting there yet. So let's just, you know, be clear about that. But this is the hypocrisy that we keep talking about. If they took it as seriously as they say it is serious, then why is Trudeau and the Liberal caucus literally flying across the country from caucus to caucus, the entire cabinet and the entire caucus?
And you know what I heard? I heard that up to 1/3 of their caucus members were not present at the caucus meeting.
That is true. We did hear that. That was something to actually see.
That's a lot. That's like 50 people.
50 out of the 156 Liberals. Well, 155 now because they lost Toronto St. Paul's. Oops. But yeah, that's significant. That basically means 1/3 of their caucus was like, to hell with you. We're done. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Liberal caucus imploding.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader doesn't believe in climate change, and that's why he has a do-nothing plan to fight climate change. It would cost Canadians money and challenge the future we're building for our kids. Our plan, with the Canada Carbon Rebate, puts more dollars in 8 out of 10 Canadians' pockets right across the country, supports the middle class and people working hard to join it, while delivering the kinds of investments that are going to grow our economy and reduce emissions at the same time. This is a responsible climate plan that fights climate change and supports Canadians. He wants to do nothing. He wants to hurt Canadians.
Did you catch Gibault's face when he was saying, we're putting $8 more in 8 out of 10 families? Gibault was like, I hope but nobody caught that. Sorry, we did.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't catch it while we were there, but we caught it just now.
Oh, I didn't hear anything of what Trudeau was saying.
No, it's so hard to hear in the House when they are live, like when you're there. You can hear the heckling pretty good. But,
yeah, but you can't hear the heckling too much on the mics during the question period video.
Right.
But so we kind of got the best of both worlds today. And you know what? The one thing that I keep trying to remember to do, because our viewers keep trying to remind me, is check your subscription with Northern Perspective, because a lot of people have been unsubscribed. Go ahead and check that to make sure that you're still subscribed to the channel. And if not, hit that button so you don't miss another video. Anyway, let's get back to it.
The Honourable Member from New Westminster, Burnaby.
No excuses. No one in Canada should be homeless, period. Full stop. And no one in Canada should pay out of pocket to get the health care they need. The Liberals are letting people be charged membership fees or bundled payments to gain access to primary care covered by universal health care. And Conservatives want people to pay for health care in Elmwood, Transcona, and right across this country. Liberals let you down on health care, you pay. Conservative cut health care, you pay. When will Liberals start making people pay for health care that should be free?
It's not free, Mr. Julian. It's taxpayer funded.
And here's the question. Why is Mr. Julian speaking? Where's Mr. Singh?
Oh, he wasn't there. At least I didn't see him.
The amazing thing is Pierre Poilievre was there. Even Yves Blanchette, who barely shows up to question period, was there.
Yep.
Justin Trudeau, who we didn't think was going to be there, was there. Where's Jagmeet Singh? Didn't want to show up to get roasted by the entire House of Commons? I don't blame you.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as everyone in here knows, over the past couple of years, I've had lots of great conversations with the NDP, and I know they actually do care about Canadians and about delivering for them. Unfortunately, they have no idea how to do it, and as soon as hard things got hard, they turned tail and ran.
Hard things got hard. I saw even Matthew Green heckling Trudeau about that.
Yeah,
from
he
the
did.
NDP.
That was hilarious.
He's like, hard things got hard? And he's just shaking his head. Like, even the NDP can't stand what's coming out of Trudeau's mouth. So yeah, like you have Dumb and Dumber in terms of the parties there.
Speaker, wanted to avoid the criticisms of the mean old Conservatives and tried to save themselves. Well, the reality, Mr. Speaker, is we know that hard things are hard. We're going to continue to deliver progressive solutions for Canadians because we're going to step up and fight for Canadians and not hide from the Conservatives.
Again, I didn't catch it while we were sitting in question period, but he said it twice.
Like,
So it wasn't a mistake. It was.
He thought he was being an orator or an oratory genius when he was. I was going to
say he wrote that and planned that and scripted that and then rehearsed
and then said it and then said it. And is probably really proud of himself that he said it twice. I did it, guys. I said hard things are hard twice. I got it out. But he is right about one thing. Jagmeet Singh is hiding from the mean old Conservatives.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
The Prime Minister gave the Finance Minister a real vote of confidence last week as he outsourced the job that she was supposed to have been doing for 4 years and gave it to a man who's not even in the Liberal caucus. First, the Prime Minister tried to fire her in the newspaper, and now she's being shoved aside for carbon tax Carney, a man focused on his own profits and his own corporate interests, who was brought in to serve as the de facto Finance Minister. She's lost her job responsibilities. She's lost her credibility. How long will the Phantom Finance Minister endure this humiliation?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
It was great after Lanceman said that, the heckling from the Conservatives. I don't know who was saying it, but it was like, "You're fired, you're fired."
Oh yeah, that continued throughout question period.
It was hilarious.
And that's the thing. How can she just sit there and take it? Like, how can you sit there and take this humiliation that your boss just expects of you? Obviously, the Liberal bus has now found its next victim, which is Chrystia Freeland.
Yeah, I mean, Trudeau doesn't respect her at all in order to treat her like that. I mean, whether you're doing a good job or a bad job, you still should not be treating people like that.
Well, it already ran over Wilson Raybould. It already ran over Philpott. It already ran over Rhoda. It ran over Lametti. Now it's running over Chrystia Freeland. Like, the bus stops for nobody, guys.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't think she's doing a good job. But as a leader, especially like when it's your own team, you're not supposed to be treating your employees like that if you want to call her an employee.
And no wonder a third of the caucus didn't show up because they wanted to avoid the bus.
Right.
Mr. Speaker, I am not going anywhere. Focus on personal mudslinging and attacks rather than to actually talk about the economy. They don't want to talk about inflation because it's been down in the target range for 7 months in a row. They don't want to talk about interest rates down 3 times in a row. All they can do is insult people.
Now, the Conservative heckling response to that was, that wasn't from us. That was from your own boss. That was from Katie Telford. What are you talking about? We're not the ones that said and did all this stuff. We're just commenting on the fact that it happened.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
Who's going to tell her? She just got a demotion, and he hired a guy that's not even elected to do her job. Does anyone believe that carbon tax Carney is going to tell the Prime Minister how to help a family afford groceries as the loudest cheerleader for carbon taxes ever? If the Finance Minister isn't completely humiliated by now, can she explain why Canadians should trust a man who is the #1 supporter of higher taxes to do her job?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we are seeing more clearly than ever that the only thing the Conservatives know how to do is to level personal attacks and personal denigration. They do not care about Canadians, and now they're scared about the facts of our economy. So let me tell you some facts. Inflation in the target range for 7 months in a row. Interest rates down 3 times in a row. And the IMF says we'll have the strongest economic growth in the G7.
So I just want to point out that I believe it was at this point that Trudeau had stood up and exited. I looked at the clock in Parliament and it said 14:37, and they had started question period a couple minutes late. It didn't start exactly at 2:15.
It was about 2:20 is when they started.
Yeah, because they were introducing Don Stewart. So he stayed for not quite 20 minutes and then left.
Yeah, bailed.
Yeah. Now we didn't stay the entire time either. Our son was he was done, so we left before he started shouting again, and we stayed until about, I would say we missed the last 12 minutes, and Pierre was there the whole time that we were there. So I believe he stayed to the end. But Trudeau definitely left within the first 20.
Well, and we did stay long enough to see the Conservatives get another couple of shots in on Freeland, though.
A member from Calgary, Nose Hill.
This summer, after he argued that Atlantic Canadian home heating oil should be carbon tax loving Mark Carney spent a lovely summer of whimsy having champers at the Royal Box at Wimbledon and rubbing shoulders at a swish cocktail party with a wealthy CEO who yesterday coincidentally got millions of dollars of tax dollars. This is not someone who's in touch with the struggle of average Canadians, but neither is the Prime Minister. Did he push aside his now phantom female cabinet minister because carbon tax loving Mark Carney could get him into fancier parties than she can?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House.
I didn't hear that one.
No, I didn't hear that either. That was brilliant.
Wow, that's a great burn, Rempel Garner. Fantastic. And yeah, for those that don't know, in the recent days, it was announced that Justin Trudeau wants to give a company, I think it's Telsat, $2.1 billion to put up constellations of satellites over the earth in order to be able to provide high-speed internet to Canadians.
It's like Starlink.
Well, that sounds like something that before I believe the Liberals were complaining about. So it's not good enough to actually use a Canadian citizen's company, because Elon Musk is a Canadian citizen, and his already existing cheaper alternative. No, we can't do that. We have to provide a whole bunch of money to a Quebec company to try and keep Quebecers on side as we head into an election year. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, I first want to begin by saying it's great to be back in this place. I really did miss most people on this side. I can't say that I missed all of you that much, but I did miss you a little bit. But what I do want to say is that it's just typical from the Conservatives that when they have an eminent Canadian, someone who has given so much to this country, who doesn't agree with their economic vision or their vision at all in Canada, they attack them. Mr. Speaker, we need to be better than this. We need to support Canadians and be grateful when they put forward for public service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Calgary, Nose Hill.
They're not even letting her answer the question anymore. At a time when so many people are struggling to make ends meet and pleading for someone to fix the budget, I'm struggling to find a reason why the Prime Minister would put an out-of-touch elitist, active archpriest of carbon price profiteering who has massive conflicts of interest in charge of the federal budget while shunting aside his female cabinet minister. What a feminist. Why does the now phantom finance minister have to get approval for Canada's fall economic statement from carbon tax, conflict of interest, Mark Carney?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
We knew the Conservatives were not going to be holding back today, and they are kind of covering their bases. But it's the question: why are you, allowing this guy to make decisions on the Canadian economy, even though the Liberals are going to say, "Oh, well, he doesn't do that. He's just, in charge of a commission." Stop peeing on our leg and telling us it's raining.
Mr. Speaker, I'm actually really glad to welcome back to the QP roster the member for Calgary Nose Hill. We haven't heard her raising her voice for a while. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going anywhere, but I am not surprised to see the Conservatives continue cartoonish personal attacks. And that is because they're afraid to reveal to Canadians their plan for austerity and cuts, because they know that's not what Canadians want.
The honourable member from Peterborough, Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, we have two sources saying the view of some senior officials within the PMO, including Chief of Staff Katie Telford, that the Phantom Finance Minister has been ineffective in selling the government's economic policies. So, it's curious because we have a fake feminist Prime Minister who says he's all for women. Taxes are up, costs are up, the economy's in the toilet, and this carbon tax Mark Carney is now going to quadruple the carbon tax on all home heating across Canada. Yeah. So why is this Phantom Finance Minister okay with being publicly humiliated by this fake feminist Prime Minister?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the only people being humiliated today are Conservative MPs who have to listen to their colleagues wallow in the mud of personal character assassination. But what we are focused on is representing and working for Canadians. That's why, Mr. Speaker, the real news today is 30-year mortgage amortizations for all first-time home buyers. That's the real news.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a good thing.
It's terrible news. It's terrible news. They're basically saying nobody can afford a 25-year mortgage anymore, so we have to bump it to 30. That's like saying, good news, everybody. You don't have to pay off your car in 5 years now. You can pay it off in 20. Yeah. No, this is not good news. And you kind of heard in the back the Conservatives heckling, saying, we didn't say this. Katie Telford said it. She's the one who leaked it to the newspapers. So what are you coming at us for? We're just commenting on what happened. And yes, you are a phantom finance minister. Trudeau is on record in saying that he asked Carney to come in and do it in July. Carney said, no, I don't want to jump on the plane that's crashing into the ground right now.
As we said.
Thank you very much.
The honourable member from Peterborough, Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, it is not Conservatives saying that. It's the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Katie Telford, for the record. And so I guess the question is before this Phantom Finance Minister. She simply has two choices. You know, is she going to join the graveyard of liberal female ministers under this fake feminist Prime Minister? Or, you know, like Jody Wilson-Raybould, Jane Philpott? Or will she continue to be publicly humiliated?
And ladies and gentlemen, that was basically question period. So it's pretty clear the strategy that the Conservatives are taking, basically as predicted, which is actually really refreshing to see. They're not giving them an inch, and while the Liberals are trying to say, oh well, you know, they're doing personal attacks. I don't really see how these are personal attacks. There's a couple of jabs in here and there, but the problem is the Liberal caucus is completely imploding, and it is giving all kinds of material to the Conservatives. Like they didn't have to invent anything. This just happened over the summer, and the Liberals botched their whole plan so badly that now they're just commenting on what happened. So what do you want?
I mean, the Liberals have done such a bad job that 1/3 of their own caucus members don't even want to show up to caucus meeting.
And rumor now is that 30 or 40 MPs, should they lose tonight's election in LaSalle and Verdun, if they lose that, 40 MPs are going to resign their seat at the next election. They're not even going to bother running again. Because
why would you?
Because they don't believe it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's nothing but, you know, going downhill for the Liberal government, and Justin Trudeau seems to be the one leading the charge enthusiastically as possible.